Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Joe Daddy's Garage. It is Monday, October 7th, 2024. And yeah, there's another big storm getting ready to hit Florida. I have a lot of followers down there. I've got some friends down there. And, I hate that there's really nothing we can do. Just hope and pray that they're safe and everything's secure. And I'm understanding that there's supposed to be 175-mile-an-hour winds hitting. That's just scary. I think they've upgraded it to a Category 5, and it's not uncommon for hurricanes to hit Florida. We know last week or so, the other hurricane came through, went up through Florida, and wiped out North Carolina and a lot of other areas as well. And that's just devastating. And I know that I'm disappointed in what our government is doing at the moment, which is next to what feels like not much compared to what they're doing to support wars in other countries and stuff like that. Just let me get off that soapbox just for a minute. But, I hope that everybody is safe in Florida and, just be careful, be cautious. I know that there's probably people evacuating, and there's only so much that anybody can do to get out of the way and even prepare for the potential damage that's going to come. I've been to Florida many times. Beautiful state. I've thought in the past, it'd be kind of neat to live down there sometime. But I don't know. You got to be pretty brave to want to endure those type of things. But I guess the trade-off is there with the just the nice beauty of Florida. So, unfortunately, they're going to be getting some damage. I know, but just I hope everybody is safe. Things going on around here, and I'll welcome everybody in just a minute. But if you're new to this live stream, generally we talk about classic cars, and my bracket of time for that is about 55 to 79, 80, somewhere around that realm. And we try to talk about classic cars. We try to bring up subjects and topics that need somebody may need attention, or they may have a question about a project that they're working on, and we try to resolve that if we can, or just talk about what's going on with the car world and all that sort of thing. But that's the program. That's what we're trying to do. I know that Florida is part of this simply because I have followers down in Florida, and obviously there's going to be some devastation come through there. But anyway, we'll talk about some other things here in just a minute. Let's see who's here tonight and go from there. So the first one in is Rick Gain. I hope everybody in the path of the storm remains safe. Yes. I don't know what the death count, let's say, I hate to say that, is for the previous storm. I know it's probably well over 200, and that's just sad. I mean, it's super sad to even think about the loss of life. But when there's a storm and there's only so many places you can hide, or so many places you can go to try to get away from those things. But yes, I hope everybody is safe as well. Thank you, Rick. Dave Tyson, good evening all. 65 and sunny in Minnesota. Well, that's nice. 65 is good. It's been today. It's actually been probably low 80s here, and the weather is looking pretty good moving forward. I know that I've mentioned before, for me to paint cars or paint anything, I want to have temperatures. I'd like to have below 80 if I can, and so this whole week there's not going to be a day over 80. And some of the nights are going to go down to 50 and 48 on Saturday, next Saturday, or this coming Saturday. And so, perfect weather for painting stuff. Unfortunately, I'm not painting, I'm just priming at the moment. But there is a great opportunity to get a lot of that done. So I'm trying to get everything taken care of that needs epoxy primer at this point. So, glad you're here, Dave. Another bell if I didn't give you one. So. Rick Stevenson, howdy everyone. I'm getting ready for another storm. Yes, sorry to hear that, Rick. But I hope that you can just batten down the hatches, and hang on. First sip of coffee for Rick. Yeah, be careful, Rick. I mean, There's not much else I can offer besides encouragement at this time. Terry Keithley. Hello, everyone. Please hit the thumbs up and like button for Barry. Thank you kindly, Terry, Betty, and the cats. It's important that the cats are here watching. It lets me know I'm loved. When the cats are watching me talk. Richard Vogel. That makes 3 combinations of Rick or Richard. So maybe I should do something on with those as well. I know the Dave thing is pretty good, but that's 3 combinations of Rick or Richard. So, Richard Vogel, good evening, Barry. I'm glad you were safe the last storm. Prayers for Florida. Yes, I agree. We were initially on a path, and through whatever things made the storm transition and change to go east of us, we didn't get anything. Like, we had rain, we had plenty of rain, but nothing bad at all. So thankful for that. Greg's Workshop. Hi, Barry. Hope everyone is okay where you are. Yes, thank you, Greg. Greg is down in Australia, land down under. And, Greg does some really interesting stuff on his channel. I know he builds a lot of tooling things, and it's fun to watch him do that. And one thing I'll point out about Greg, whenever I can't do this, I don't know how he does it, but when he welds, I've never seen him use a welding hood. I don't know how he does it. I can't imagine. I see him weld something, and I'm like, how are you doing that? And however he holds the MIG, I don't know if it's just the light is not hitting him directly in the face, but I can't do that. So it's always interesting to see what Greg is working on. Extra bell for Greg. Jerry's Garage, the Money Pit. Good evening from Middle Tennessee to all. Thumbs up. Thumbs up. Thank you, Jerry. Hope all is well where you're at. I know Tennessee got hit as well, and even all these other areas. It's devastating, the stuff that's been going on. So, Troy Justin. Good evening, my friends. I hope things are good in your neck of the woods. Yes, thank you, Troy. And I assume you're not in the path. I know you're on the Georgia coast, but this storm that's coming looks like it's going to go straight across the middle of Florida, unlike the last one, which worked its way all the way up, kind of around the edge of Atlanta and stuff. So thank you, Troy. Bob Shoemaker, good evening from 80 degrees in sunny Oklahoma. Missed last week with wife having heart surgery, so I'm a caregiver for a while. Well, I'm glad you're here, Bob. Sorry to hear about your wife having to have heart surgery. That's a scary thing to deal with. So yeah, take care of her. That's your priority. That's your priority. Roger, Hindsight 6'7", greetings from next door. Greetings, Raj. Hope all is well. David, the bowler hat guy. Hello, all. Hello, David. Dawn's Manufactory. Hello, folks from sunny PDX. Just back from Ohio. Saw the Air Force, Gale Haldeman, and Packard museums. Oh, man. 3 bells for that. I would have loved to see any of those. Hopefully I get the chance to do so. Packard Museum? That sounds incredible. It's funny, you look back, just bringing this up. If you look back in the early days of automobile production, where you had Ford and you had Oldsmobile and Chevy and Pontiac and Cadillac, and we don't think about it very much today, but those were all names of people. That was like their last names. And of course, Packard, to me, the early generation of Packard stuff was kind of like, and maybe I'm wrong in this comparison, but like you look at a Duesenberg and you look at how that car was built, and it seems like Packard was kind of on sort of that plane as well. And then they kind of changed somewhat. And later on, of course, Packard merged with Studebaker to try to stay alive, and it didn't work out for any of them. But, those old Packards are just incredible cars, really are. And the engineering of that time period, back in the 20s and 30s, even 40s, whenever they were coming up with superchargers on some of these things. And, the old Ford Model A is chugging along with a flathead 4-cylinder managing 45 miles an hour. And here's a you know, a Duesenberg or a Packard or Auburn or whatever that are just boom, running away with it, you know, as far as speed and all that sort of thing. So I would love to go up and see the Packard Museum. So good for you, Don. Dawn says, all you Floridians, brace yourselves. It's a biggin. Yeah, that's what they're saying. That's what they're saying. Pretty scary. Pretty scary. Jack W. Hello, Barry. Thanks for the info of the day. Left the flange on the outside. Good for you. Now, what Jack is talking about, he's building his fastback 60, I think it's 65, and he's replacing the wheelhouses. And the question was whether the wheelhouse flange needs to go on the inside or the outside of the trunk support brace. And I noted when I did the light blue Mustang many years ago that flange was on the inside on one side of the car and on the outside on the other side of the car. And I don't think it really made any difference. And it's just one of those things. The flange itself is, you know, the thickness of that flange doesn't really come into play offsetting the quarter panel enough to ever notice. So he was struggling with the, you know, should I put it back this way or the way that it fits comfortably? And so we talked about it. I sent, you know, let him know that, hey, just put it in there. Don't worry about that flange being on one side or the other. It's not going to change anything. So glad I could help, Jack. Ed Cucciarella. Hello, all. Hello, Ed. Glad you're here. Denny Alvey. Hello, Barry, from Paducah, Kentucky. Glad you're here, Denny. Now I got to wait for Steve Reed to catch up. He's our other Paducah guy. Marcus. Hi, all. 90 and sunny south of Houston, Florida. Stay safe. Yes, thank you, Marcus. Oh, you know, I have something that, I don't know if I have that picture still. Marcus sent me a great idea the other day, and I'll download that. See if I can't put that up on the screen. He was showing me an idea for cleaning out like inside a frame rail or something like that, into where, you know, getting a wire wheel or, you know, some sort of device in there that would break up the rust and that sort of thing. So this is a great idea, and I've actually used something like this before. I'll just show this as well. So what he's showing here is it's a piece of cable, and it has a plastic coating on it, or a plastic sleeve that coats, you know, or protects the cable, let's say. And they use these in a variety of things. Some swing set things have these. You can find this stuff. But basically the idea is that you can cut off the plastic off the end and spray or flay, how do you want to flay out the wires, unwind the wires, put that in your cordless drill, and just let it go to town, beating up the inside of whatever has rust in it. And I've done something like that, very similar, and that was a great idea. So a couple bells for Marcus on that one. So if anybody's ever tried that, let me know. But that's the idea of the week. How about that? Once again, thank you, Marcus. Shannon Vaughn, I made it. Hi, everyone. Hi, Shannon. I know Shannon's dealing with storm damage as well, so hopefully all that's close to being completed. I mean, there's areas that are just, as we know, completely wiped out, but there's a lot of fringe areas that also got damaged or had, you know, trees down and a variety of things. So it's going to take a while for everybody to get caught up, and you know, obviously the recovery is going to be questionable. How they take care of all of those areas where the water's just wiped out the whole town and everything else. I keep hearing stories about it, and some of the stories that I hear are pretty disturbing. But again, it could be mostly rumors. I don't know. But you know, we'll see. Rick Gain, where did you get the bell from? I got one. I was wondering where you got yours. This was actually sent to me. This I don't know, lobby bell for a hotel or whatever. Um, this was sent to me by one of my patrons a while ago, like a couple years ago. I think in the past I had like a little. The first bell I tried using was a little bell from a bicycle. I don't even know if it's still laying here somewhere, just to give a bell indicator. But they were like, "Hey, I'm going to send you a bell," so they did, and that's what I've been using ever since. So, Dave Britton is checking in from Canada. Hi all. Hi Dave. Hope all is well. There's your bell. That's like the third Dave, right? C&J Hoyt, good evening all. How hard is it to remove a full roof on a 66 coupe and put one back on? Thanks, John. It's not easy. It's not easy. In fact, if you go to the light blue Mustang videos and the drip rail repair, I did a drip rail video on that light blue Mustang. I actually bought a car that was mangled just for one drip rail. I bought it for the drip rail because they don't make those for the coupes. And I had to cut part of the roof loose, and once I started taking the roof loose, I realized that it wasn't going to be as easy as I thought to replace the drip rail. But that may give you some input as to the roof. Now, what you're going to run into is just like I did on a Cobra Jet. I put the rail on, and then I put the rain gutters in as well. So the rain gutters, if I remember the sequence, the rain gutters go first. I know on the 65s for sure they go first, 65 and 6, any of them. The rain gutter gets attached to the inner structure for the roof, up here on the inside, and then the roof will sit on top of that. And then there's a series of welds that go in the rain gutter. So you have that to deal with. You're going to have a seam up here at the A-pillar that you'll have to separate. You have to separate all the welds on the header panel at the front of the windshield and at the back. And then, of course, the 5 and 6 cars have I think the roof and the sail panel is all part of it, because I think the seam is down below on that car. Yeah, it's down below. It's at where the quarter meets the sail panel. So it's a bit more challenging to get one of those off, or any of those off, really. But what you end up doing, if you're going to replace the roof, I would probably start with a Ziz wheel, cut-off wheel. And I would cut like as close as I could to the gutter without hitting the gutter. And cut here, and then cut the face of the top, and get this panel off. Get that out of your way. So then that way, whenever it comes time to get stuff loose, in which you have the windshield out, of course, you can start knocking welds loose, grinding off the heads of the welds is what I normally do. You can use one of those little belt sanders, get it right on top of the welds and break those loose. But then you can get a punch in there, a flat chisel punch, and break those loose, and it'll peel up easier than it would with the whole roof attached. So you get rid of the bulk first, and then work on the smaller pieces. And then in the rain gutter, it's going to be tough. You're going to have to grind off. I would grind the whole top edge of that the roof off, and separate that out of the rain gutter if the rain gutter is still good. I don't know for sure. So just those are some of the things that I would probably do to try to get to that point. So reduce the mass and then work on the smaller areas. So good question. Thank you, John. Nick Moss. Hello, Nick. just straight up hello. That's all you get. Greg Workshop says hi, Barry. Hi, Greg. Glad you're here. Maureen, that wire tip is a good idea. Fine needle gunning tool. Okay. Yep, that is a good idea. Like I said, I've used something similar to that before. Jack W, I use that coated wire trick, but I put it in a small diameter pipe. Okay. Also, you put the whole thing in a small diameter pipe and just let it, that way you control it better, right? So it's just the end flays out and the cable's not all whipping all over the place. Is that I assume it's what you're saying. But sometimes you can't get in. You have to go like through a hole and just let it kind of beat itself to death inside of there. But I get what you're saying. Don's manufactured the cable idea. It's how we cleaned VW intake manifolds, heat tubes. Oh, there we go. That works. That works. Greg says, hi, everyone. Hi, Greg. Glad you're here. And Marie says, Jack W. makes sense to control it. Yes. Dave Tyson. Use gun cleaning wire brush for cleaning frame rails. Yeah, that works too. That works. Rick, if I ever need to replace a roof, I'll send it to Barry. Yeah. They're not fun. They're not fun. Oh, you know what? Let me bring something up. Just hold on. Let me take a little sip of coffee because I need to talk about something. Okay. I saw a video that popped up in my feed today. I don't know who the guy is. I don't know his background. All I know is he was working on a coupe, a 1970 coupe, that he was turning into a fastback. And he was just doing this kind of overview of what he was trying to get done on the car. He had the new sides. He had a variety of new pieces and parts. And I'm watching what he's doing, and I was like, no. He had already taken the car, and I don't know the status of the car. All I saw was there was no roof on it. There was no A-pillars. He had already cut all this thing to pieces. And he took the rocker panel was cut off and gone. I assume that he didn't do a lot of research on some of this stuff. He took that rocker panel and cut it off. And then next thing I know, he says, I got to get rid of this front section. And, you know, on the 69 and 70, you have this air box up here, right underneath, next to the cowl. There was nothing wrong with this air box. There was no rust in it. The guy just pulls out the plasma cutter. I can get another one of these for $30. Tosses it. He's cutting away. He cut off the rocker panel. He cut off the kick panel. He cut off the A-pillar. He cut everything off. But all the flanges were there still. And then he's like, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do now because how is this held together? Or what is, you know, how does this... And I hate that that there are people doing this sort of thing and they don't do the research. You know, I try to show everybody how I at least approach a project and how I dig into it and why my procedures are the way they are. And he had no jig system, he had nothing. And he was just taking a plasma cutter and cutting off chunks and tossing it. And I know I demonstrated this with the Cobra Jet when I put the side of the car on. I retained the rocker panels, partly because Charles wanted me to retain those rocker panels. But also, when I put them on, I made reinforcements. I welded bars on so that nothing could move. Just simple things like that keep the plane of the panel direct and won't allow it to flex or change shape. I'm watching this guy, and I actually made a comment. I said, look, I have thousands of videos on YouTube. Please watch some of these. Look up the Cobra Jet and see what I've done so you have some insight. I just don't like to see people struggle with the process. But also, I know that the hole that he's digging is going to be deep. And, you know, you want to have a straight car at the end of the day. You want to have the doors shut. You want to have the hood fit. You know, all these things. He couldn't even figure out the little bracket that welds on. I know I'm blocking it. The little bracket that welds on up here for the fender. He's like, I don't even know what this does. Like, he didn't even know what that was there for. And he says, I don't know if I'm supposed to keep this, if it's part of the blah, you know, like, and I'm like, please stop. go do some homework, find a diagram or something to figure out what you're doing, because just cutting a car to pieces and then hoping that you're just going to push parts back on it and weld them in and it's going to fit is ludicrous. It's not going to happen. So, I mean, I want to encourage the guy. I don't want him to be defeated by the process, but I want him to understand there's a lot more to it than just cutting things off and taking these aftermarket parts and pushing them up against it and trying to weld them on and hoping for the best. That's like, here's the question we had about the roof. Somebody like him, well, he already did. He just chopped off the roof, just cut off the A-pillars completely, and that's fine if it's a coupe. It doesn't really, if he's doing a fastback conversion. But I want people to understand how this is put together, so if they're going to attempt that sort of work, they have an idea what to expect. Like the lead here in the corner and all this stuff. People need to know that sort of thing and not just assume. And that's, I know I'm beating a horse here for all of you, but that have been following me along, and you know what I'm talking about. It just kills me. I'm like, step away from the plasma cutter. Okay, let me get off that little soapbox. Hopefully he's watched some videos, and hopefully it'll help him get on the right track. The bowler hat guy, what's the new arrangement in the shop? Well, not much has changed. Right now I have the 70 up here because the plan was that it was supposed to leave tomorrow and head to Florida. But the guy who is coming to get it is prepping for the storm. So he didn't want to be away from his house and everything else. And so we're not gonna worry about that at the moment. But the 70 is going to be heading out the door maybe by this weekend. Maybe. If not, probably early next week. But otherwise, the 68's up on the lift, and my Mach 1 is sitting underneath the 68 at this point with all the boxes and pieces and parts piled on it. Yeah. So I'm working on getting the parts, as you know, for the 68 fastback conversion, and hopefully I get that all that list put together properly, so that the parts can show up here, and then we'll go from there. But the 69 Cobra Jet is in the back, in the paint booth area, and of course it's in primer. And currently I've got the hood, the underside of the hood flipped over, and it's in the back. I've got the cowl panel and the stone guard ready to go for primer, and also the front valance, which is sitting right there. And I didn't do a good enough job on demonstrating or showing the problem with that front valance, but it had been hit, and that thing was just buckled in, and I hammered and dollied that thing, got it straightened back out pretty close. So the front valance is also ready. So tomorrow I'll be putting epoxy on those pieces, and then prepping them in a day or so for high build on all that other stuff. And then I have the other things. I have the fenders, the headlight buckets, and quarter extensions to get them prepped up. That's the next thing on the list. So, good question. And Jack says, yes, I was talking about putting the wire in that pipe to keep it from beating all around. Got it. Michael Pagliarini, evening all. Still struggling with fitting body panels. Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you. It's never easy. It's never easy. I just had a conversation with somebody last week, and they had a 70, and they were trying to get the door to fender alignment correct, and it was not lining up at all. But somebody else had worked on it, and they were like, I think this is off and this is off. And I said, well, you need to do some square up measuring and figure out what's wrong first. And it seems like the right front the right front may be sitting low. Or no, he actually said high. It might be sitting high. Like it might have hit something and they cut it apart and just put new pieces on and didn't straighten the frame rail. And so everything's cattywampus. So there's all, I mean, these cars they're just tin cans. They really are. It's just a bunch of sheet metal spot welded to other sheet metal. You know, I know it's got a frame rail in the front, a frame rail in the back, and torque boxes, but it's just a tin can. It really is. Greg, if the car is done wrong, you can see it in the end. Yes, that is very accurate. Yep. Delmarine. Oh, hold on. Where'd he go? Love the knowledge and passion. That's why I pay attention to you. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Rick Gain. My uncle worked at the... I have a hard time saying that word. Matuchin? The plant in New Jersey. Building Mustangs in the late 60s. Unfortunately, we lost him in '02, so I can't talk to him. It says, it's possible my uncle was part of the crew that built my car. Wow, that would be cool. That would be very cool. Dawn, wow, it didn't take me long to figure out to replace one thing at a time. I made that cut and the whole front end moved. Yeah. Yeah. And I've had to help people out because of, they see rust and they think, I'll just cut all that out at one time. And then how do you put it back? You know, I had a guy who had a 68 Camaro that we went round and round for a while. I had to tell him, I had to really get with him and talk to him because he cut off the frame rails and everything else in the back. There was no quarter panels, nothing from the middle of the car back. And then he was like, how do I find where this goes? And so I came up with a battle plan to help him get back on track. And basically what we ended up doing through phone conversations was I had him fit the quarter panels off in space. Like make them fit the car, make them fit the door openings, make them fit the rocker panel. So the quarters are at least in the right plane. So he did that first, squared them up, and he basically built from the top down, getting everything in place. Like he put the wheelhouses inside of the rocker or the quarters, got the other panels, everything, went in, but he had to build it from the top down instead of the bottom up. And that's why I tell people, do one rail at a time, do one wheelhouse at a time, do whatever. Exactly as Dawn has said here. These things, yeah, it can be a big problem. Mr. Steve, welcome. I agree, Joe. I don't know how many times I've watched or talked with guys that had no business touching a plasma, let alone a grinder. It's okay if they want to listen to a guy, but when they don't, yeah. And let me take another sip of coffee. I will say this. I am guilty. I am probably very guilty of encouraging people to take on these projects. They watch what I do, and I don't hide stuff. I show you what I'm doing. I show everybody what I'm doing. If I have to cut something loose or repair this or cut that or weld this, whatever, I try to show all that stuff. And at times, I feel like I've maybe encouraged people to take on a project they shouldn't, or I've encouraged people that they can do something, and for the most part, they should be able to. But there are some people who maybe just don't have those skill sets. And so they see what I do and they think, oh, well, this guy's doing it. I can do it too. And that's true. But they have to realize too, I've got 40 plus years of experience putting stuff together, taking stuff apart, growing up in the junkyard. And I don't try to make that sound like it makes me any better than anybody else, but I have a background that is more extensive than most people. I was taking cars apart when I was 8, 9, 10 years old. And so I remember all these things. I remember all this stuff. I have mental catalogs of taking apart old Impalas and Fairlanes and Galaxies and Cadillacs and Buicks, and I mean just all kinds of stuff stuffed in here. So sometimes I feel bad that somebody's jumped into something because maybe they got in over their heads too quick. Maybe they thought, well, if he can do it like this, I can do it like that and save some time, that sort of thing. And I try not to make it look easy, but it's not something for the most part that I find difficult because I've been doing it for so long. And that's the catch. I was straightening out dents the other day, and like Troy, who's one of my patrons, he suggested making a video on how to use a hammer and dolly and get stuff straightened out. And that's a great idea. Most of the time, I don't even know what I'm doing. And I say that in a sense of, I see what I need to do. I just grab tools and I go. Like when I'm doing a hammer and dolly thing, I don't think about, hey, I should hold this. It's just like a natural thing where I'm like, okay, block here, dolly, this, do that, boom, boom, and it's flat. And some people don't get that. They don't see the rhythm of that. Just like doing block sanding. I try to demonstrate that as much as I can, the techniques. And I had somebody the other day said, like, I use the Durablocks, which are a rigid foam block, and I can do curves. And I'm not saying, again, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but it's my technique and what I've done for years that allows me to do those sort of things and know that, hey, the block isn't my friend here. I have to let the block do the work. I can't make it do what I can't force it to do what it can't do I don't know if that makes sense or not. Like if you're on a curve, you have to let your wrists roll with it. You don't sit there and just square off and try to go up and down on a curve. You have to let your wrists rotate, stuff like that. And again, it's just a subconscious thing. It flows. I don't even hardly, it just doesn't register that I have to think about it. It's just natural to me. So anyway, yeah, some people, they know their limitations. Some people don't. Thank you, Steve. Lewis, welcome. He says, Joe, were you going to paint? Were you going to paint Slither? If so, what color? Yes, the plan is to paint it back to its original color. The car. Here's a picture. That's what it's supposed to look like. The car was originally black jade with gold and white stripe, I think, in the center of where it says Mach 1 and all. So the plan is to paint it back to that, basically that right there. This car is a regular scoop car. It's not a shaker hood, so that's the only real big difference. And this one has louvers on the back, but that car is black jade. That's the color. That's not the car that I started with, but that's the car that we hope to end up with when it's all said and done. So good question. And hopefully it turns out better than that one. I've mentioned it many times. Let me show this one more time. I can't tell how good that picture is because it's not very big on my screen. I've mentioned many times that I'm not a comfortable painter. As you know, when I do anything, I'm pretty particular about how I do things, and I stress over details. They got to be right. So when it comes to paint, that's my most stressful thing that I do. You could roll a car in here that, like the Cobra Jet, I could cut it into pieces. I fabricate a new car, put it together, boom, 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 fine. But when it comes to paint, that's where I stress. So right now, I'm feeling really good about this car. As we all know, it's mostly new parts anyway, but I'm feeling really good about how it's looking at the moment, and the panels are coming out really nice. So as I've done more painting over the years, I don't look forward to it, but I've gotten a better understanding of what I'm doing and why I'm doing certain things the way I do. But I think that car is going to come out looking really, really good. There are other cars that I've seen pictures online. You can pull them up, and the stuff like the stripes down the side of the car, if they don't line up, I lose it. I lose it. Like, those things have to be straight. My angles, my door gaps, all that stuff needs to be dead on. But yeah, that's the goal, is to get it back to the original color. John says fit and fiddle setup on frame jig. Yeah, he should be, but he's just doing it in a house garage, and he'll tell you. The guy even said, talking about this fastback, he's like, I've never done this. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm gonna just try to go for it. And I'm like, please watch some of my videos. Wealth of information for you. Marine, while I have the 365 fastback GT, I also have another 65 fastback I bought for $6,000 in 2008. Solid and rust-free with strong 289 4-speed with a crappy paint job. Father and son project in a few years. Well, there you go. That'll be awesome. Hey, let me just throw this out there. I'm looking for, how do I want to put this? I'm looking for a 67 convertible. Okay. I'm looking for a 67 convertible that's in really bad shape, but has really good numbers on it. Really good numbers stuff. So if anybody knows of any of those, send me an email. Like, just looking for a 67 convertible that's really rusty and needs lots and lots of attention, and it might be something that I could get fairly cheap. Just letting you know. Just saying. Okay. Danny Alvey, hey Barry, I always start with the worst side first and use the better side for support. Yep. That's a great way to look at it. Marine, it still has 80s Krager's and Eagle ST tires. Will rebuild motor and rear end, but 4-speed top loader parts will be tough to find. Paint removal will still undecided, but may farm it out to a local shop. Yeah, something like that. You may end up, soda blasting, if you can get away with that. Because soda blasting, to me, I think is better than a sand media. I think it does a better job, and it doesn't create heat and damage. But yeah, you may want to find somebody that can do that. 68 Orange Crate, so glad that you're keeping her stock. Going to be a beauty. Yes. And I'm glad you're here, 68 Orange Crate. Glad you're here. Gregory Jones, hey Barry, I finally got my 72 Mercury Cougar painted and almost completely back together. I was finally able to use the car cover I won from you a while back. I will try to send you pictures. Okay, awesome. That's good to hear. I did a video a couple years ago. I had carcover.com had offered me a car cover if I did a video, so I did. And I said to them, I would like to do a giveaway. And so they agreed. They were like, fine, we can do that. So I did a giveaway. Apparently Greg won the car cover. Now, not that I remember that. Not that I remember who won it, but I'm glad that you won that. They also, and I did a video on my RV. They sent me a cover for free if I did it for the RV, which I did. And seems to be a decent product. So glad you got it, Greg. Travis, hey hey guys, sorry busy at work. I hope I didn't miss anything. Oh, Travis, my number one patron. You missed everything. But glad you're here. Dawn says, Soda Blast sure made a mess of my brother's 69 Fairlane. Cool on the outside, but a mess inside and underneath. Oh, really? Well, was it hard to clean up? Because I know that sand, it seems like you can blow the car out 100 times and you're still going to find sand. So I don't know how well it is or how bad it is with soda blasting. I was looking at it from the outside of the vehicle, what it does and how it makes the outside look. The alternative would be also I've been seeing videos on this where you go get it dipped. You know, there's these companies that'll, I don't know what it costs. I have no idea. If I could afford it, I probably would. But they take your car and dip it, bring it out, rinse it off, and then put it in some sort of epoxy or something, and then bake the thing, and then it comes out and it's like all black and ready to go for body work and that sort of thing. So if I could afford that, I probably would do that sort of thing. All right, so some of the other things we've talked about, or I've done videos on recently, was the epoxy and the high build. We talked about this last week, and one of the things I wanted to mention, and let me grab this paint gun real quick, just to show you. I had done videos in the past. Where I had used a variety of paint guns, and some of the paint guns I've used are pretty cheap. In fact, I'll even show you one of those. These guns are, and I still will use these guns if I'm like in an emergency kind of type of situation. Okay, so I have two of these. This one's purple. Purple is for primer. That's how I remember what it is. And this one has I think a 1.8 tip on it. So purple primer, right? This gun, I have a red version of this and a little touch-up gun, and these all came from the PPG paint store. It's not a PPG product. It is just a generic paint gun set. I've used this to paint a bunch of things. Well, not this one. I used this one as a primer gun and the red one as the paint gun. And then I have a DeVilbiss that I've painted, done clear coat with. Okay. These guns work fine. I'm just telling you right now. If you're going to paint something, you can use one of these cheap guns. This isn't a Harbor Freight thing, although that would probably work too. This gun was part of a 3-gun kit that I got from the PPG store back then, which was like 15 years ago or more. I paid $100 for all 3 of these guns. I got the PPS adapters and used the 3M PPS cups. And these guns, they've never let me down. I'll just be honest. I've not done anything to these other than clean them and put them back on the rack and then use them. Okay. So a few years ago, I decided, hey, I'm going to spend a little bit more money, because you can spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on a paint gun. To me, unless you're painting SEMA quality, high-end, Kindig-It, whatever, super duty show cars, you don't need a $1,000 paint gun. Just my opinion. It may help, but you don't need it. Okay, so I decided to spend a little more money. And what I bought was what I thought I was getting a little. Well, I did. It actually was a better upgrade. Was I got 2 of these Black Widow guns. These were from Harbor Freight. I think somebody said these are a SATA copy or something. And I used both of these. Now, one was a 1.7, and the other one, I forget what the tip is, 1.3 or something. One is a top coat gun, and one is like a primer paint gun, right? So this worked. And at the time, of course, Harbor Freight says it's $300, but it's on sale for $150 or $180 or whatever. So I bought one of these. And this was a decent paint gun. You can probably go back to some of my videos, and you'll see where I'm painting with this thing, and it starts going. It's all messed up. Well, I come to find out, and of course I try to go through Harbor Freight because that's where these came from. You can't buy parts for these, at least not through Harbor Freight. And some people said you can buy the parts kit for the SATA gun, and it'll fit, and blah blah blah. Okay. I probably won't ever use these again. They're still a decent little gun, and they have problems with like the O-ring failed. I think it was in this adjuster back here, so it was spitting paint out of it. But I want to tell you, and I've shown this before, and I have this on should be on my Amazon page, and also on the last couple of videos that I did. And I don't have the tip on here right now, or the nozzle tip. This thing is a Master Pro 88 paint gun. Now, it looks similar, very similar to the Harbor Freight version, except for the knobs. Harbor Freight has this fan knob on the side here. This one has the fan knob. I think it's just this one back here is the fan knob. I think it's how, yeah, that's how it's set up. But this thing, I've used it. The cool part about this was this gun comes with 3 different tips. It comes with a 1.3, 1.3, 1.4, and 1.8, I think is what they are. And basically you get 3 different nozzles, 3 different needles, and I think it's in the center, the actual, where the needle fits. This is probably the only gun I'm ever going to use again. Unless I decide to, I fixed my DeVilbiss, which I may go back to using for clear coat. But when I did the Bronco that was early this year, wasn't it? Or no? Yeah, it was early this year. This is what I ended up using. The thing turned out fantastic. So I just wanted to mention that because I've had people ask me about this paint gun, and I have really no complaints about this thing. This is, again, Amazon. Oh, that's the other thing I wanted to bring up. I broke, my fault, something I did, on the nozzle piece that screws on. There's a little white piece of plastic that inserts into this, and I made a mistake. When I was cleaning it, I left that soak in lacquer thinner, and that piece of plastic expanded or something slightly. And I was trying to put it back in here, and I broke it. And I was like, that's not good. So I ended up taking the plastic piece off of the 1.8 tip and put it in my 1.4, same piece, not a big deal. But I went looking online, they sell rebuild kits. So you get all that stuff. So that's a big plus to me. I was able to get, in fact, it showed up the other day, the new plastic. There's new pin for your trigger. There's all kinds of new stuff. So just wanted to share that with you in case you're looking at buying into one of these. Don't buy these. Not from Harbor Freight. They're okay. They're good guns, but if they break or something, now you're in trouble. So just saying. But also, I really can't complain about these cheapo guns that I bought years ago. And my PPG rep told me that a lot of body shops, they will actually buy these, buy a new set in like January, use them throughout the whole year, and at the end of the year they throw them away and they buy a new set. That's how reliable these are for at least for collision stuff. So anyway, just sharing some information with you. But I did get the I had somebody comment about how they were amazed that I sprayed the high build primer with a 1.4 tip. And the instructions specifically say 1.3 to 1.6. So 1.4, run with it. Because I know a lot of things will tell you to like use a 1.8 tip to get more out. But it worked out fine doing it the way I did it. So let me move on. Steve Reed. Hello, everyone. Sorry I'm late. That's all right. Denny showed up earlier from Paducah, so you don't get that. Mr. Steve, I always research, measure, and do it again before I cut anything. Yeah. I mean, I will run my tape measure and then check it again and check it again and check it again. I'm pretty anal about that. I want to make sure that the numbers are right because, once you make that cut, you're probably not going to want to do it again. Let's see. But yeah, glad to hear Mr. Steve, if I didn't already give you a bell. And I guess I gave Steve a bell, didn't I? I don't know. You get a bonus bell. Paco. Hi, Barry. I'm almost done with my 66 Mustang 289. Your videos are great and inspired me to complete my project. Keep up the good work. Awesome. Happy to hear that. Greg's Workshop. Hi, I got to go now. See you all after. Okay. Glad you're here, Greg. Have a good night. Dawn sent a couple pics from Packard Museum. Oh, man. Let's see if they'll come up. Sometimes the pictures show up. Sometimes they don't. Let me see. I'm not here yet, Don. Let me see. Nope. I don't see them yet. So let's see if they show up. Yeah, they're not here yet, Don. All right. Don Marine, thoughts on sanding paint of the 65 Fastback? I can braze too. Okay. Well, sanding, I mean, if you want to sand it all down, you can. It's not that big a deal. It just takes time. I've had somebody ask me before, like I use the surface conditioning tool to strip off the paint on almost everything now. And somebody said, why aren't you using a sandblaster? And I'm like, well, I don't have a sandblaster, which I do have a sandblaster. It's over here. It's over there. And the problem with that is it clogs up all the time and it makes a huge mess. And the sanding is just what I do. So, stripping it off. And you can do that. It won't hurt a thing. So Dawn has sent me a couple pictures. Let me see if I can get those up. So I know this first one he sent me is. Let me see what the information says, because I already know what the car is. But it says Packard Hawk. So for those of you that have never seen one of these, this is one of the weirdest cars made. So basically, that is a Studebaker that is a Packard. So when it comes down to it, the car itself, it's a Studebaker, but it's a Packard. That's why it has that catfish mouth on the front. Otherwise, it would be like a 54. I can't remember I can't read what the sign says specifically. Let me see if it'll. 58. Sorry, 58 Packard, but it's really a Studebaker. But they call it the Packard Hawk, and that's a Studebaker 289 and supercharger. So they were still kind of trying to be independent, but also connected to each other. So it ended up with a Studebaker engine and Studebaker body, but the nose and the rear section were modified by Packard. This is one of the oddest cars that they ever made, because it just looks like a big catfish, and it really does. The bumper bullets sticking out. The catfish has those little spears, whatever, the antenna coming off of it. But yeah, that's one of the that's one of the odder vehicles that they made, and they're still out there. They're interesting, but there's not like a huge mass of people trying to get a hold of them, because they're so rare that they're almost impossible to rebuild, if that makes sense. And then this one, that is a Packard engine for sure. And as he points out, 2,500 cubic inch in PT boat engine and PT 109 flag. So if you know what PT 109 is, you have a bonus. But that is a Packard engine. So pretty cool. Thank you, Don. Things you just don't see anymore. You just don't see. Okay. C&J or John, on your blaster, lay down the window screen to filter out the crud. That way you have good silt to work with. Yeah. Yeah, but it seems like that pressure pot still, it just acts weird. It just clogs up. The tip clogs up. And part of it is I'm probably not using the best media, but I don't know. It seems like a struggle to make it do what I want it to do. And I'm almost happier just stripping it off with the SCT and following up with a DA and being done with it instead of having all the mess. Don Marine says should be in a museum. Yeah, that's where they're at. That's where that's at, in the Packard Museum. Exactly. Michael Pagliarini, Kennedy's PT boat. Yep. Yep. Rick Ain, what engine was in the PRT-73? You know what the boat was? No. I don't know what that was. No idea. PRT-73? Does not ring a bell. But then again, I wasn't in the Navy or anything, so I have no idea. But yeah, PT-109 was, in fact, the movie was PT-109 with Kennedy. Yep. All right. So yeah, the Packards that I want to see are the old Packards. You know, the big old, like Duesenberg looking Packards. Don says that is a gear-driven overhead valve roller cam. Cool to see the valve cover off. Let me look at that again. Oh, there we go. It's hard to see from what I have in front of me, but now I see what you're saying. Wow. Yeah. You said it was 2,500 cubic inch. Woo. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Are there 7 cylinders? 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess I'm seeing 7 cylinders, right, on one side. So is that a 14-cylinder engine? I'm guessing by the looks of it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm guessing. Man, that's a lot of horsepower. And I've got a couple other pictures I'm going to share with y'all as well. Well, wait a minute. Let me undo some of the previous pictures that I have. Okay. So Greg has sent me pictures of the Cougar that we talked about a minute ago. That with the car cover. So here is Greg's Cougar. Now that's got to be like a 72 or something? Yeah, 72 Cougar. He says, done all the body work and paint myself using a lot of your videos. Thanks again for the chance to win the car cover. Also won a trophy at the local car show. Well, that's a bonus. I've only won 1 trophy at a car show. Well, actually 2. I won 2 trophies. One was with the Model A, and the other one was with a 70 Chevy short bed that I rebuilt. So here's another shot of the car. Nice. That's cool. Awesome. So Rick Gaines says the PRT-73 was from McHale's Navy. Okay. Never really watched that show, but I'm familiar with it. Just didn't really ever watch that. Dawn, they had Packards going back to pre-World War I. The 40s and 50s ones were pristine examples. Awesome. And Terry Keithley, made in America by Americans, not China. Yep. I'm with you on that. And we have a latecomer, Mr. Cyrano. I was saying his name wrong. So it's Mr. If I said it right now, I think it's Mr. Cyrano is what I'm supposed to say. I think is what I'm supposed to say. He can tell me if I'm right. Right? Yes or no? Okay. Yeah, we've talked about quite a few things here, and I know that I'm about out of time. I know we usually run these hour and a half, and I feel like an hour is probably pretty good anymore for discussion time and stuff like that. I know we've talked about a variety of things. We talked about the paint guns. We've talked about working on sheet metal and cutting and all those sort of things. So we've had some great subject matter, and I really do think it's fantastic that we can have these conversations and share information with everybody. If you see somebody working on or making videos or showing a project or something, and you see they're doing something that may be questionable, point them towards my channel or my videos and say, hey, look, you need to go watch this, so that you don't cause more problems than what you need. Because I hate to see somebody dig a hole they may not get out of when it comes time to work on these cars. But otherwise, I think that's going to be it for tonight. Now, the next thing I'm doing, as I said, is I'm painting or putting epoxy on the bottom side of the hood, the stone guard, the valance, and the cowl panel. And all that should be an epoxy by tomorrow. And then let that sit a day or so and put the high build on by this weekend. The other thing that I did, and it'll come up in the next video, is I did the gutters. I did seal the gutters. I did not use a self-leveling compound though. I used the other stuff, but it worked out really well. It looks really good. So anyway, that'll be it for tonight's show. I'm glad everybody was here. Again, stay safe if you're in Florida or have family or friends. Stay in contact with them, and say a few prayers for them, and hopefully this storm dies down before it can actually do too much damage. But anyway, that'll be it for tonight. So until next time, take care of yourselves. See ya.